I met Mark Thompson when I was 24 years old, working as a teller at a small community bank in Colorado Springs. He walked in wearing a faded blue flannel shirt, carrying the scent of pine and mountain air, and asked for change for $100 bill so he could buy his mother flowers. His smile was crooked, his eyes the color of warm honey, and when he laughed at his own clumsy joke about not trusting ATMs, something in me shifted. We were married 11 months later in a small ceremony at the foothills. No big fancy wedding, just family, close friends, wildflowers, and promises we both believed would last forever. Mark was ambitious, kind, and steady. He worked in sales for an outdoor equipment company, traveling often but always coming home with stories and small gifts. I rose through the bank ranks, eventually becoming a branch manager. We built a life, a modest but beautiful home with a wraparound porch, 2 dogs over the years, Sunday hikes, and quiet evenings where he'd rub my feet while we watched old movies. For 23 years, I thought we were happy. There were arguments, of course, money stress when the company downsized, my miscarriages that left empty spaces in our hearts, his long trips that sometimes stretched into weeks, but we always found our way back. He called me my anchor, and I called him my compass. I believed it. Looking back now, the cracks were there if I had looked harder. The credit card bills he paid quickly and never discussed. The times he seemed distant after trips, staring at his phone with a tightness in his jaw. The way he'd brush off questions about retirement planning with, "We'll be fine, Sarah. I've got it handled." I wish I had pushed. But love makes you trust. Love makes you blind. It was a crisp October morning when Mark kissed me goodbye for what I thought was the last time. He was heading to the Rockies with his brother Derek for a 3-day hiking trip, an annual tradition since their father passed. Derek, 5 years younger, had always looked up to Mark. They were close in that effortless way brothers can be, finishing each other's sentences and laughing at inside jokes I never quite understood. "Be safe," I told Mark, straightening his collar, "and take pictures this time." He pulled me close, the way he had 1,000 times. "Always am. Love you more than the mountains, Sarah." 3 days later, the phone call came at 2:17 a.m. I still remember the exact time because the glowing red numbers on the clock burned into my memory. "Mrs. Thompson?" The voice was official, tired. "There's been an accident." Mark had slipped on a narrow ridge trail near Telluride. Loose scree, a steep drop of over 200 feet. Derek had tried to reach him, but the terrain was too dangerous. Search and rescue found the body after 72 agonizing hours. When Derek arrived at my door, his face was gaunt, eyes red-rimmed, clothes still dirty from the mountain. He held me while I collapsed. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I should have been closer. I should have." We planned the funeral together. Closed casket, the coroner strongly recommended. "The injuries were extensive," he said gently. I nodded, too numb to argue. White lilies, Mark's favorite hiking boots placed on the casket instead of flowers. Derek stood beside me at the graveside, arm around my shoulders, the rock I needed. Hundreds came. Colleagues, neighbors, old friends. Everyone spoke of Mark's kindness, his laugh, his love for the outdoors. I barely heard any of it. The world had gone silent except for the sound of dirt hitting the casket lid. The first month was pure survival. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep more than 2 hours at a time. I wore Mark's old flannel shirts and slept on his side of the bed. Friends brought casseroles and kind words. Derek came by almost every day, helping with paperwork, insurance claims, and the crushing bureaucracy of death. The life insurance policy, $2.8 million, took 8 months to pay out. There were investigations, forms, interviews. Derek was invaluable. As a financial advisor, he guided me through every step. "Mark wanted you taken care of," he'd say softly. This is what he planned for. When the check finally cleared, I paid off the house. I paid off the cars. I invested conservatively with Derek's help. I quit my job. For the first time in my adult life, I had financial freedom. But money cannot fill the silence where a marriage used to live. I tried therapy. Dr. Elena Vargas was patient and sharp. Grief isn't linear, Sarah. You're allowed to feel angry, relieved, guilty, lost, all of it. I nodded, but inside I felt only hollow. I traveled a little, a solo trip to the coast, weekends in the mountains where Mark and I used to go. Everywhere reminded me of him. I joined a widow support group, but listening to other women's stories of true loss made me feel fraudulent sometimes. Their husbands were really gone. Mine, I thought, had simply slipped away into memory. I redecorated the living room, took up painting, planted a garden. Small acts of rebuilding. People said I was so strong. I smiled and thanked them while inside, I still set 2 coffee cups out every morning before catching myself. Derek remained a constant. He never overstepped, never made it weird, just steady support. "Your family," he'd say. "Mark would want me here." Rachel's bachelorette party was supposed to be fun. 20 of us in Vegas for a long weekend. I almost backed out, but she insisted. "You need this, Sarah. 1 weekend of lights and noise." The strip was overwhelming. Neon, laughter, the constant chime of slots. I stayed at the slots for a while, losing $40 on purpose just to feel something. Then I wandered toward the high-limit blackjack area, seeking quieter tables. That's when I saw him. He sat at the end table, posture relaxed, stacking chips with the same deliberate care Mark always used when counting change or sorting mail. Silver hair, broader through the shoulders from what looked like new weight training. Black button-down shirt, sleeves rolled precisely to the elbows, revealing the thin white scar on his left forearm. The one from when he tried to repair our fence 12 years ago. My heart stopped. He laughed at the dealer's joke. That exact low, rumbling laugh that used to vibrate against my back when we spooned at night. The sound that filled our kitchen on lazy Sundays. I gripped a nearby machine so hard, the edge cut into my palm. Tears came instantly, hot and unstoppable. This wasn't a hallucination. This was real. He felt the stare. His head turned. Our eyes locked. Recognition. Pure panic. Then a mask of polite confusion slid over his face. He looked away. I forced my legs to move. By the time I reached the table, he was already cashing out, moving quickly through the crowd. I followed, weaving between tourists, my pulse hammering in my ears. He climbed into a black SUV at valet. I memorized the plate. Colorado plates, interestingly. 847 KLM. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the hotel bed, phone in hand, comparing old photos to the mental snapshot I had burned into my brain. The mole above the left eyebrow. The slight crook in his nose from a college basketball injury. The way he held his shoulders. It was Mark. I flew home the next morning and called Derek immediately. He came over that evening, concerned. I told him everything. The laugh, the scar, the eyes. He listened patiently, then sighed. "Sarah, grief plays tricks. I've seen it. You're still raw." This man was probably just a look-alike. Vegas is full of them. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But the next day, I started digging through old files. That's when I found the smaller $250,000 policy Mark had taken out years earlier. Beneficiary Derek. Paid out quietly. Then the hiking boots in the garage, red clay mud. The Rockies report mentioned gray volcanic soil. Small things, but they multiplied. I hired Martin Reyes, a retired detective turned private investigator. Expensive, but the insurance money allowed it. Over the following weeks, he uncovered everything. Photos of Mark, now Michael Brooks, living in a Phoenix suburb. Bank records showing transfers. Communications between Mark and Derek. The staged accident involving a terminally ill homeless man whose body was used. A contact at the coroner's office who had been paid off. The worst discovery. Derek had received nearly $800,000 as his cut. They had planned it for over 2 years. I sat in Martin's office, folder in my lap, feeling the foundation of my life crumble. The betrayal was a living thing inside me. I alternated between rage and crushing sorrow. Nights were the worst. I would replay every memory, searching for signs I had missed. Had our entire marriage been a lie? Or had it been real until the debts and fear consumed him? I confronted no one immediately. Instead, I gathered more evidence. I met with a forensic accountant. I consulted a high-powered attorney specializing in fraud. I learned the risks. Reporting them could mean the insurance company coming after me for the payout. I could lose the house, the investments, everything I had rebuilt. I chose a different path. I flew to Phoenix alone, knocked on the door of the modest house. Mark opened it. The shock on his face was visceral. We spoke on the porch. He tried excuses, debts, feeling trapped, wanting freedom but still loving me. I laid out the evidence calmly and demanded a quiet divorce plus significant restitution. He signed what my lawyer prepared. Derek's confrontation was colder. I invited him to dinner, played recordings, showed photos. He cried, begged, reminded me of family. I gave him 24 hours to return the bulk of his share. He did. I sold the Colorado house, bought a smaller, brighter place near the Pacific in California, started a foundation supporting widows navigating financial abuse and grief, traveled, painted, made real friends, learned to laugh without guilt. Mark and Derek faced no criminal charges by my choice. I wanted freedom, not endless entanglement. They became footnotes in my story. I visit the old grave sometimes, leave one white lily. Thank you, I whisper, for setting me free. I am no longer the woman who became a millionaire because her husband died. I am the woman who chose herself when the truth tried to break her, and I have never felt richer.